Welcome to Papyrus Plans. I'm Tasha. Ready to create something beautiful? Let's dive in. Hello everyone. So today I thought I'd talk to you about my 2025 journal plans and why I'm making a shift to something different, to something new. Now, this year for my journal, I decided to use a Happy Planner guided journal. And just kind of as some pretext, let me first say that I've pretty much journaled my entire life. Pretty much always. Ever since elementary school, I've used either a diary or a journal or something, to write down my thoughts in. So I'll first start by saying that I've been a lifelong journaler. Now, in the last few years, I've kind of gotten away from journaling. I would say probably the last 7 or 8 years, I've kind of stopped journaling entirely, which is abnormal for me. Again, because I've pretty much always had some form of a journal my entire life. Even if it's like a little pocket journal to fit in my handbag, I've always had some kind of journal. And I've noticed, as life has gotten busier, I just kind of stopped journaling. And I didn't really think much about it. I kind of would, some years be like, oh, I want to get back to journaling. But then I just would be so busy and I would forget and never do it. Well, a couple of years ago, I developed severe anxiety. And it was recommended that I start journaling. And I thought, oh yeah, I used to journal all the time. Well, now I kind of had to do it in order to improve my mental health and to prevent and minimize anxiety attacks. So that's kind of was the impetus for me trying to get back into journaling. And that was one of my goals this year, was to start journaling again. And I will say it was difficult. I started out with a Happy Planner guided journal. As you can see, this is the original cover, original pages. I just, added, the year, my name, this is kind of part of it where you start the guided journal. I forget which version I have, but again, it's the one that matches this cover. So I'll link it below if I can find it, if they still have it available. But you start by writing a letter to yourself. But I will say the first of this year, I didn't journal at all for, I think, the first 4 or 5 weeks of the year. I didn't do any journaling. It just took me a while to get into it. And part of the problem, I think, was, number one, when you haven't done something for a while, it kind of takes a while to get it started again. So part of it was kind of rebuilding that habit of writing in a journal every single day. Like I did it every day for literally decades and then just stopped doing it. So that was the first issue, I think, was trying to restart this habit that I used to have but no longer had. The second thing is the format. Again, this was a guided journal, and it has, these little boxes and things to write, like, how are you feeling, write affirmation for the day. I felt like this was, I don't know, I felt like this was too limiting. I guess that's the best way to say it. I felt like I was stuck. I felt like I couldn't do anything other than, and as you can see, this is only the second week, and I didn't even get into my journal. Let's see, when did I start? February 20th. So February 20th was when I started, and I even made like this little pocket page to write like, hey, I started my journal a little late this year, third week in February, just to kind of remind myself of, hey, why didn't you start the first of the year? And so I kind of had that little reminder to myself. So I started out doing the things the way they had it, right? Then I quickly realized I don't like this. And so as you can see, like the second week of my journal, I started adding scrapbook paper, started adding stickers, coloring, writing different things. I started altering it almost from the get-go because I think I quickly realized that this isn't working for me. I felt like I found myself struggling to want to write in my journal because I didn't like the prescribed prompts. And I got the guided journal because I thought it was going to make life easier because it had been so many years since I had journaled. But for me, it actually made things harder. Now, I'm the kind of person who likes like blank journals. I don't like to have lines. And so I don't know why I thought a structured journal was going to be beneficial to me. I think originally my first thought was, oh, you haven't journaled in so long. You need maybe a little guidance and help into getting started again. I didn't, because I've been a lifelong journaler. So I don't know why I felt like I needed that extra help. And it very quickly started to become a stumbling block for me. As you can see, week 3 in my journal, I ditched the guided journal entirely and just started creating my own pages. Like I took cardstock And I just, in my scrapbook paper, and I basically started creating this mixed media journal. Like I started using inks, as you can see, like the first spread, I started using inks, tearing pages, putting down stickers, writing in my journal. And it kind of just started getting more and more creative from there. And cause I felt like this was preventing me from being creative. This was preventing me from, you know, doing what a journal is supposed to do and allowing you to get your thoughts on page. So as you can see, like I just, I started using journaling cards. Like I started using die cuts in my, you know, like these pops of color by scrapbook.com. I started using these 3-dimensional, it's kind of like modern day puff paint. That's kind of how I look at it. I started using that. I started, you know, using stickers, you know, like I was doing all the things because I just was like, this is better for me than having some prescribed way of doing things. I created little pockets, you know, and like little folders to put things in. Like I really started playing around with different mediums. Like on this page, you can see like I just went crazy. Like I threw my paints at it, my inks, you know, I also used journaling cards. I used Rebel here. I did a little bit of everything. And I think the reason was because the structured pages were making me feel so restricted that I kind of went the opposite direction. Now, here's the con to that. This gave me so much freedom and I was consistent. And even on the few occasions where I wasn't consistent in my journal, I would back plan, you know, 3 or 4 days I missed because I would remember what it was that I did that day and would jot it down. So I have not missed any day journaling this year, except for in the beginning where I just kind of didn't have my mojo yet and had some motivation issues. But once, you know, February 20th came around and I said, okay, today's the day. And I almost started not to start a journal this year, but I said, you know what, it's better to start a journal a month late than not to start it at all. And that's what kind of pushed me to finally get started. Like, hey, start the journal late. Don't just use that as an excuse not to start one at all when you know you need to. Especially for my mental health, I was like, okay, don't try to push this aside when you know this is something that you need. But like I said, the downside to that is the upside is I had freedom to be creative. I had freedom to do whatever I wanted. I wasn't restricted by these guided prompts that Happy Planner was giving me. The downside is this was incredibly time consuming. Like I think I spent maybe 2 months worth of weekends putting all this together. And no lie, I spent probably $50, $60 in tape runners. Actually, it's probably more than that because I stopped counting after $50, $60. Then I was like, okay, I'm going to use glue and tape runners because I'm like, this is just ridiculous. Like this is probably a $150 journal that I created because I literally created it myself. Like I took the sheets of paper and created it myself. And then I quickly realized that using cardstock is just like this is cardstock on cardstock. Like 2 sheets of cardstock I glued together in order to create, you know, each side. Because like, for example, this week I used this pale green color and the next week I was like, well, one page is pale green and the other sheet I want to use is ivory, and how am I going to get these 2 pages to match? So then I was gluing them together. But this is so thick. And I quickly realized I cannot glue 2 pieces of cardstock together every single day 365 times. That's going to be insane. And this is already on expander disc. Like I had to put this on expander disc pretty early. And so it's thick. It's just impractical. So then I switched over to like I had some. Actually, you can kind of see it here. I think this is when I made the switch to like Happy Planner notes paper. I used up what I had in my stash. I think I had like maybe 30 sheets of it left or something, or 20 sheets, something like that. So I used that. And that worked for the most part because I could cover, you know, up the next page pretty easily. But as you can see, I used everything from like napkins to paper to washi tape. I used everything in my stash. So this was a good way to use up my stash. So if you don't care about price, I would say this is a good way to use up your stash. And again, it allowed me to be super creative and to really build that habit of journaling again. Like, as you can see, like I did all the things, right? But this thing is so thick and it was so expensive and it just wasn't practical. And I said to myself, I cannot do this in the next year. Like, I was like, I cannot. Like the pages I haven't even gotten to yet. Like you can see, it's just like, even the ones that aren't using cardstock, like this is thick. And do I love it? Absolutely. I think the pages are gorgeous. Like when I look at it, it makes me smile. It makes me happy. I like what I did, but I said, I cannot spend 2 months into the next year creating another custom journal. I cannot spend, you know, $60 on tape adhesive tape runner and another 20 on glue. Like, I'm like, this is ridiculous. Like the money I spent on that, I could have just bought a journal. And so then I was like, okay, what's the alternative? And then someone recommended to me, well, why don't you start a bullet journal? And I was like, you know, I've been thinking about that for years, but I don't have the time to create all these little intricate spreads for each day and blah, blah, blah. And they're like, you just did. And I'm like, okay, fair. But I don't want to do that. And they're like, well, you don't have to, you know, do like a traditional bullet journal. Just get the dot grid journals and do whatever you want. And they're like, and you can add your paper and whatever to it. And I was like, huh, I didn't think about it like that. So that's kind of what my plan is for 2025. I cannot do this again. Like, look at this thing. This thing is huge. It is huge. It barely fits on the expander disc. Like, you can see some pages are so thick and have gotten warped by the glue, because I use everything from liquid glue to glue sticks, a double-sided tape, tape runner, everything. Washi tape, you name it, I've used it in this journal. Now, was this fun to create? Absolutely. Was this incredibly therapeutic? Absolutely. But it was time consuming and just ridiculously expensive. And I just feel like I can't justify this into the new year. Like, I loved it. Like, I love the way it came out, but I'm like, I cannot do this next year. Like, this is crazy. Especially since I've started my own business. I just genuinely just don't have the time. Now, if, you know, the world was my oyster and I had tons of time like I did last year to just set aside and just do stuff like this, then maybe I would consider it again. Because again, it was therapeutic and I liked the idea of using up stuff in my stash, but it's just not practical. I mean, it's heavy. It is so heavy. Like, this thing is crazy heavy. And again, it's huge. And that's with the expander disc on it. I had to immediately take off the disc that came with this and put on the expander disc that I had in my stash because this thing is big. So this is the solution. So when Happy Planner had their crazy sale, they also had all of their dot grid notebooks on sale. And I had been looking at so many different options, trying to figure out what kind of journaling did I want to do, you know, what did I decided to, since for years I had really been considering getting into bullet journaling, and I just was like, I don't want to do it. I just don't want to do it. But then I thought, yes, I can use a dot grid journal for something other than bullet journal. And so I'm like, I'm already doing this, right? Like, I'm already creative journaling in my own way. Like, I'm already doing this. And so I'm like, why can't, like, it was recommended to me. Now, why not do this in a different form? And also the other thing is, I realized that the pages of the classic, because I use a classic sized Happy Planner guided journal for this journal for 2024. And I realized it was too big. Like, I was like, I don't need all this space. And that's why you can see some pages I really got crazy decorative, because I was like, even with me writing every day, I was like, I'm not writing, now let me, you know, I'm not writing a page a day like I used to. Like, I used to write 1 page, 2 pages, like these lengthy journal entries. And again, I just don't have the time. I still want to be able to get my thoughts on paper, write down about important events in my life, things that, you know, I want to keep track of in terms of my mental health. But I was like, I don't need to write a page a day. I just don't. And so as you can see, like, I started adding all these different decorative elements in just to fill up the space, because I was like, I just don't need an entire page per day, especially not a classic size page. And so that's why I thought that this size would be more beneficial to me. It's smaller, it's more portable. I think the size hopefully will be perfect for me, again, because I don't need a full 7x9 sheet of paper per day in order to write down my thoughts. I just don't. Now, some days, yeah, I might need a full sheet, but in general, I won't need that. So I think this is going to work out well for me. So again, this is a Happy Planner Journal dot grid notebook, and this is what it looks like on the inside. So I think they had 3 designs left. I got these 2. This one says, Be Your Own Muse, and this one is There Is Magic in Every Day. So I thought these designs were really pretty and versatile. Again, as you can see, I actually mapped out, I mapped out whether I would be able to fit an entire year in this journal, because that was another requirement of mine. Is I know a lot of people that use these journals and they use 2 of these per year. I don't want to be that person. I just don't. That's just not going to be practical for me. I want to be able to fit an entire year's worth of thoughts in 1 single notebook. And that's another reason why I went with this size versus, you know, some of the smaller notebooks that I've used in the past. Again, I feel like this is going to be kind of a happy medium between fitting everything in 1 year, in 1 book, and being practical. So I literally spent an entire day like mapping out, counting out how many pages do I need. And I was like, okay, I can put, you know, like the year here. I can put a quote or the word of the year here. I can put the January cover page hit. So I literally went through and count out everything, and it took like 3 tries to kind of figure it out. Like, if I use this many pages for this month, will I be able to fit a cover page for each month? And then I kept backtracking until I could finally fit everything And I think I ended up with a few sheets left at the end. Let's see, 1, 2, 3. So yeah, I ended up with 3 full sheets left over, and that's with me being able to fit 3 days worth of journaling per page. Because for me, I feel like 3 days is plenty, because there's some days I literally write down 2 sentences. Other days I might write down a paragraph. Very rarely do I need a full page anymore. I mean, when I was younger, I was writing down pages and pages of stuff, but I just don't feel like I need that anymore. Again, this is more practical than anything for me. And so I just want to make sure that this stays practical. So I think this size, again, is going to work for me. And I mapped out an entire year in both books. And I even used my corner rounder tool on a sheet of, on a sticky note to see which one would match the page, the curved pages. So if I do a design to the edge, I know what to use, that type of thing. So I have all of these mapped out. It's just a matter of choosing which one I want to use. So let me know in the comments which one you like, and maybe I'll choose the one that you guys decide on. Again, one says be your own muse. It has like this apricot color palette. The other one's more neutral and says there is magic in every day. They had now have some new designs too. But I just got 2 because I figured, and I don't think I mentioned this. I got both of these 50% off. So let's see. I don't know if this has the price on it, but I want to say these were like $24, $25, something like that. I think it was $24.99 retail, if I remember correctly. And I got 50% off. So I think I ended up getting each book for like $10 or something. Plus I had like a discount code. So something like that. So I was going to spend like $25, $30 on a journal. So I basically got 2 for the price of 1. So I thought that was a good deal, because I was like, well, even if it doesn't work out for me, I can always give the second one away as a gift, or use it for something else, like keeping notes or testing things like inks, that type of thing. Again, for the price, I felt like it was worth it for me to give it a shot. So I'm going to move away from this guided journal from Happy Planner, classic size guided journal, to a dot grid notebook, and I'm hoping that this will work for me in 2025. At least that's my plan. Now, the reason why I didn't really show you guys any of my journaling spreads that I've done so far this year is because, and I'm not sure if I mentioned this yet, but like I said, I literally spent like 2 months designing all of the spreads last year for this year. So I just, like, every weekend I would sit down and spend like 8 hours on a Saturday and like design as many spreads as I could, and then the next weekend, you know, spend like 7 hours designing spreads. Again, because this was so time consuming. Now this, like I said, this was incredibly therapeutic. I got to use loads of stuff in my stash that I probably wouldn't have used otherwise. So in that regard, it was kind of nice. But it just was time consuming. And that's why I didn't show you guys anything, because everything was designed already. Before January 1st, I had all of this all mapped out and designed. Because I wanted to be able to just sit down and start journaling. Now, the beginning of the year, again, it took me about a month to really get motivated, even though this was already in place to be able to actually use this. But once I did get motivated, I've been consistent. And as I showed in my Hobby Lobby haul video, these are the stickers that I bought predominantly to use with my 2025 dot grid journal that I plan to use into the new year. Well, starting in the new year, I should say. And the reason I bought it is because it has, you know, the date and number stickers, days of the week. I did a full flip through in that video. But just to kind of give you a quick overview of what it looks like. And this is predominantly why I bought this again, because I thought it would pair beautifully with the dot grid notebook from the Happy Journal, from the Happy Planner, rather. So that's kind of my plan for 2025, and the reasons why I'm switching from my guided journal to a dot grid notebook, so that I can still do my creative planning and have my creative outlook and, you know, maintain good mental health at the same time. All right, you guys, let me know what your plans are for the new year in terms of your journal. Do you journal? If not, let me know why not. If you do, let me know why you do and what journal you're taking with you into the new year, or what are you switching to in the new year like I'm doing. All right, talk to you later. Bye. That's all for today. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and share your thoughts in the comments. Until next time, stay inspired, and thank you for watching.